A dozen have been pared down to 2. The 1 seed, Indiana, will play Miami on the Canes' home field. How much of a home field will it be? We will see when we get there Monday, the 19th of January. That game presented by AT&T on ESPN. Greg McElroy alongside. You were just on the call, and I'm starting with you where I started with Reese.
Yeah.
The impact that this Hoosier crowd had on this game tonight. How would you measure it?
It was because of how the game started. Pick 6 right out of the gate. It was immediate engagement, was it not? I mean, you could feel the place was shaking. And they had said, we talked to Signetti, and he said, just based on the tickets, and, no stones left unturned with him.
Yeah.
We're thinking about 85 to 90% Hoosiers. I'm like, there's no way. Sure enough, I think he might have undersold it.
It felt that way, and I mean, it couldn't have been any louder. The fuse gets lit immediately as they take on a team that they had played earlier this year and defeated in Autzen, which itself was quite a statement. But after the pomp and circumstance, very first play of the game, Dante Moore, you're a quarterback. What happens here?
I mean, you just go immediately into fight or flight mode. I mean, squat corner, inside throw. You miss it inside by a mile. Outside leverage, trying to work an out route. Just a bad decision out of the gate by Dante Moore.
D'Angelo Pons, the pick 6, and we're not 10 seconds into this game, and Indiana leads. But give tons of credit to this Duck team that goes right down the field on the 3rd and 12. This is a heck of a toss to Jamari Johnson.
And Jamari Johnson's came up huge for Oregon down the stretch. At this point, you're thinking, this is a ball game.
My guy Stanford Steve says over and over and over, the wide receivers for Indiana do not get nearly enough credit. That's Elijah Surratt.
Unreal. I don't know how you cover it. It's good coverage, good phase, perfect throw.
You made the point in the broadcast. Speaking of perfect throw, here's another. And it felt like most of them from Mandoza tonight were.
He missed 3 throws. One was a throwaway. That one's a tougher throw than you realize into the boundary.
Omar Cooper Jr. there, his folks loving that. The unforced errors from Oregon are catastrophic. The pick 6, and now you hand them the ball inside the 5. What happens?
And this is because the starting running back, Noah Whittington, out for the game. In goes a freshman, trying to go RPO. Miscommunication, poor mesh, fumble. Indiana inside the 5.
And you made the point on the broadcast that RPO is very involved. And if you don't have a ton of reps, it can lead to things like that. And that leads to this. Kalon Black, he is such a rugged runner. And IU, they lead the FBS with 127 points off turnovers this season. It's 21-7. Can Oregon answer again? No. Here comes that rush, and it's an avalanche, and that's what this team does.
And you always look at the O-line. They're always on different levels. There's one guy behind another guy. The twists are ridiculous, and they always seemingly land where the quarterback's supposed to be.
It was 2nd and 3. Now it's 4th and a mile. Nothing going right for Oregon. Now it's Mandoza again, and it's a clean pocket, and it's another dart to the speedster who had the touchdown in the Rose Bowl. It's Charlie Becker again.
And also the guy that put the game on ice in the Big Ten title. Same exact play. Fade down the right side. They've guarded for the back shoulder all game long. Doesn't matter. 6'4" Becker goes up and gets it.
And that's that trio of wide receiver stars. All of them featured already in the highlight. Can the Ducks answer again? No. Here comes that rush. Ball is out again. And it's just, again, I keep using the word avalanche. That's the only word I can think to use.
And Duque was a backup 3 weeks ago.
And here's Surratt. They took a look at this one to decide, did he get in before the butt was down? They reviewed it. Yes. And so it's all Hoosiers. I was standing in the tunnel when the Ducks came out and they were ready, and they hadn't given up, but the Hoosiers hadn't either. Here's another touchdown. E.J. Williams Jr., 3rd and 5, little double move.
They're not comfortable with just a 28-point lead. Let's just keep pouring it on.
Let's block a punt while we're at it. We haven't checked that box on the bingo card. Now they have. Another gigantic play from the Indiana defense. Daniel Duque, who had a sack earlier, here gets his paw up in the air.
A rotational player before an injury to the Big Ten's leader in tackles for loss.
And Becker, by the way, comes down to downs punts, right? I mean, they have their star players play kind of across the board. Here's a Surratt touchdown. Again, 3 incompletions. 3 incompletions. 5 touchdown passes. He has 8 touchdown passes and 5 incompletions in 2 playoff games, playing against Alabama and Oregon. And Sig says he's going to crack open a beer. Have a few. I suggested to Mr. Mandoza, I think they'll keep the upstairs pub open for him, waiting for the fellas to get home from Atlanta. I don't know how long the flight is, but, keep it open. You see 26 wins for Kurt Signetti, the most by a head coach through His first 2 seasons with the team in the history of the AP poll, and that goes back to 1937. You've been on my show. Maybe you've watched my show. I have tried my best to avoid being hyperbolic.
Of course.
Speak to me honestly about what this Indiana team is.
They are one of the most complete football teams I have ever covered. I've only been doing this 12 years, so it's not like it's some gigantic list, but I've lived in the 4-team playoff era and now the 12-team playoff era. What's most remarkable about this group is there is no weakness. They are really, really good, bordering on elite in every possible phase, from wide receiver to running back to quarterback, of course, super elite. All 3 levels defensively. And I think the other thing, too, that I love about them, Scotty, is that the culture that's been created on offense and on defense, it's not about me. It's about we. It's a collective buy-in that really has kind of allowed them to go to the forefront of college football.
All right, I'm jotting that down because I want to circle back to that thought and how I think that's really remarkable given the era that we're in. But first, let's hear from Dan Lanning and Dante Moore. Oregon had a heck of a year, and it came to a crashing halt thanks to a really good Indiana football team. Here are the thoughts from the Ducks.
We were able to generate, a little momentum there at times, but we were so far in a hole that you really couldn't create yourself out of that. And the takeaways, obviously, they were able to create some. We didn't create those. They won average starting field position throughout the night. Their special teams were special. So you see a really complete team, and I think they have obviously had a great chance to keep it going and have unbelievable success. So credit to Coach Signetti, credit to those players. Obviously, they've got great leadership and a veteran team that it really showed up.
All right. Thanks, Coach. We'll start questions right here, front row on the right.
Aaron Finches with the Oregonian. This is for Coach Lanning and Dante. You guys seem to feel very confident that you had fixed a lot of the issues that contributed to the poor offensive play in the first game. What went wrong tonight?
Yeah. First things first, the quarterback, you have to protect the football. And Indiana, of course, has a great defense, great disguise of different looks. But, you can't win football games if you're causing turnovers. So just something, of course, I need to work at. That comes with just, reps. But overall, there was a great Indiana defense, great defense coordinator, but at the end of the day, we beat ourselves.
Yeah, and ultimately, there were moments where we had success offensively, but obviously when you have the takeaways, you start off with a pick six, you get in a little bit of a hole, you probably start to press a little bit, you get away from some of the success you have in the run game at times, but there's moments that we had some good plays, but that's a damn good team, and credit, you got to give credit to them too. It's not just what we didn't do; it's what they did do.
That's well said. I would agree. Greg, Dante Moore is a talented young man. It's a thin quarterback draft. He'll probably go.
Yeah.
Should he?
If I were advising him, I'd say go, because how many examples have we seen from guys that come back for another year, chase a championship, and then all of a sudden things fall apart, a la Garrett Nussmeier. So I think when you're already being talked about in the top 5, you have to go.
Understood.
But what I would say, and this is coming from a New York Jet fan who's raising children as Jet fans, we are gluttons for punishment, but such is life when you are a Jet fan.
This is the path you chose.
You have to know that when you draft this young man, it's projection. You're drafting tools. You're drafting ability. But you are not drafting a guy that's plug and play at this moment. There's still a lot of development that needs to be had with him from a footwork standpoint, accuracy standpoint, pocket mobility standpoint. He just has things to iron out at this point.
Well, the Jets need somebody that's ready yesterday. So I hear what you're saying here, and that's as it relates to Moore. Again, that Pons pick started the game. You hand the ball to IU inside the 5, and the route was on. You mentioned the word culture as it related to Indiana. And the reason I jotted it down is because in the era of the portal where you can go, you're a free agent every single year, and they bring in players, and they're already loading up for next year. Mark Cuban saying, thanks. They're happier this year. They've got a very old team.
Right.
But a lot of times you can bring in guys that everyone thinks they're going to be the guy, and that means that we're not all for one and one for all. I think that's as impressive as anything. How do you think they've done that?
Well, I tell you what's amazing, and I actually had kind of asked this question to myself. Why do you think that is? And I kind of described it when I asked Brian Haynes and Sean McDonough and everybody, we're all in there. How do you get guys to intentionally take yourself out of the play in an effort to spring your own player for the sack? For example, along the defensive line, a defensive tackle will go out, take himself out of the play, and then boom, here comes the defensive end. And he described it so eloquently and so perfectly. We get guys that want to win more than they want to be drafted.
Wow.
That, to me, sums up everything about this Indiana football team, their buy-in, the way they do the little things, the way they complement each other, the way they pick each other up and set each other up as well.
And that speaks to team over everything, because you think of some of the Bama teams that won titles, they had 5 guys go in the first round. This IU team does not have that.
Right.
And yet here they are. They're steamrolling people. Miami, though, has a recipe. They can run it.
Yes.
They can shrink games. And their defense is pretty formidable, too. I would imagine that would be the script. What do you see when you think of that Monday, 19th of January game?
You know, I think Miami can play with anybody. I think their physicality along both lines of scrimmage will neutralize most talent advantages that some teams have.
Most.
Say that with a gigantic caveat, because this team does not get dismantled. You can match their physicality all you want. They're going to beat you with scheme and technique. And they're going to get those big offensive linemen on islands, and they're going to get that big offensive line to not necessarily crumble, but they won't be able to play with the same level of unison that you see all the time from Miami's group. The recipe is clear for Miami. You run the ball, you keep Fernando Mandoza on the sideline. Simple. Day number 1 stuff. The only way that you're going to be able to disrupt his rhythm is with a tremendous internal pass rush. He's really, really athletic. And
yeah, how many times did he extend drives with runs? That's the kind of thing you don't think about. Beck did that last night, too, before the touchdown run, right? He had a number of third-down scrambles that just kind of get lost in the sauce.
And he also did against Texas A&M. He also did against Ohio State. So I think quarterback mobility is something you have to have nowadays in football, not just in college, but the NFL
like
as
you,
well.
wheels.
Yeah, that's exactly how they've always described it. Just
notable.
Juice. All the juice you can handle.
Mr. Juice.
Yeah, exactly. But I look at this, I think his mobility, and that's going to be fascinating, too. How does Miami want to rush him? Because if you rush too aggressively, which Miami has a tendency to do, they're violent up front. He can make you pay with his legs as quickly as he can make you pay with his arm. And he's not going to rush for 120 yards, but he can convert four third downs and keep drives alive and eventually wear your defense down. So I actually think Miami has a better recipe to make it a highly competitive game, but it will require perfection. And that's how you beat Indiana. Because you know Indiana's not going to beat themselves. Miami has shown at times a certain capability, like last night,
10 penalties last night,
to keep it very interesting for a very long time. That's not Indiana. They have the killer instinct dog in them that doesn't matter. They will absolutely wear you out if you allow them to. So it's going to have to be junked up in the biggest possible way, and Miami's defense is going to have to play out of control.
This is a remarkably efficient and well-coached group, this Indiana team, and they have got a monster fan base that is going to be coming from all directions.